worked hard, if we played fair, if we loved our country, if we cared enough, there wasn't anything we couldn't do. Wasn't anything we couldn't do. And we believed it. And we did it. But ladies and gentlemen, that American dream is becoming more distant to millions and millions of Americans. Mothers and fathers who see the tables having turned on them and have more difficulty looking at their kids and saying with certainty, I promise you, honey, if you work hard, if you play by the rules, if you go out and get a good education, if you believe in the country, there's nothing you can't do. Folks, this is kind of scary. Think about it for a minute. In the most recent debate, John McCain felt the need to declare, I am not George Bush. Well, folks, have you ever heard that old expression? He doth protest too much. Over the course of 3 days, 20 months of campaigning, 8 years of failed economic policies. There's not one fundamental economic issue on which John McCain has challenged the policies of George Bush. He voted 4 out of 5 times for George Bush's budget. He bragged about it, voting for the President of the United States of America, voting with him, George Bush, 90% of the time. And remember, and I apologize for my back, folks. Remember how he won his party's nomination? He won it by telling the Republicans that there was no stronger supporter of George Bush than John McCain. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my mom used to have the expression, and some of you guys probably went through this growing up. You wanted to go down and hang in the corner where the guys occasionally got in a bit of trouble, and say, your mom would say, no, you get in trouble. I said, no, I wouldn't. She said, honey, if it walks like it does, if it quacks like it does, if it looks like it does, it's a duck. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're walking, quacking, get right to the bush. John McCain wants to continue the Bush tax cuts to the very wealthy that are due to expire under law 2 years from now. He not only wants to continue them, he wants to double down on them, adding $300 billion a year in new tax cuts for corporations and the wealthiest individuals in America. Folks, these are good people. These aren't bad folks. They're patriotic people. But they're not the way to revive the economy. We've had 8 years of this approach. Ladies and gentlemen, we've seen the results of 8 years of this trickle-down philosophy. Barack and I have a fundamentally different approach. It is really, in a sense, one of the most simple, straightforward electoral choices in modern American history. Look, let those tax cuts expire for the very wealthy. Instead, provide substantial relief to the middle class. So they can send their kids to college, so they can pay for health insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, grow the middle class and grow small business, and the economy will grow. It's that basic. When the middle class grows, the wealthy do very well, and the poor do better. And we can help behind. Look, folks, John McCain, and he's a friend, he's a good guy, he's an American hero, but folks, we need more than a good soldier, we need a wise leader right now. tax rate per year beginning next year. Again, now, I'm not playing a populist card. It's not like those guys are bad guys. We need strong, major American corporations. I'm not making that argument. But ladies and gentlemen, think what we could do if we directed just part of those tax cuts to those 8 largest companies to small businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, here are the facts. Here are the facts. 60 to 80% of every new job created in America is created by a business that has less than $100 million in sales, in revenue. Small businesses. We think, they need a tax cut. They need a tax cut to provide health care for their employees. Today, Barack Obama had a little meeting down in Florida. A woman stood up and pointed out, she's a small business person, pointed out she's paying $40,000 a year to provide health care for her employees. By the way, her costs have gone up 87% over the last 8 years. Under our proposal, she would get a tax cut right at the top of $20,000 of those $40,000. Ladies and gentlemen, we also think we should do for small business because they create jobs. What we did right after 9/11, what did we do? We expedited the ability to then go out to borrow and have guarantees so they could pay payroll, so they could have inventory, they could keep people employed, they could keep the tax base up in their community, they could actually contribute. We think we need to do that now. And ladies and gentlemen, it's really a basic proposition. If we allow them to grow, they will employ. That's why we think they should get a $3,000 tax break for every new permanent employee they hire. That's a stimulus. I know we're not running against President Bush, but we are running against the very economic policies of George Bush that John McCain is promising to continue. The very policies that led us into a very, very deep hole. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican, anybody listening to Colorado in this speech. Ladies and gentlemen, forget for a moment whose fault it is. No one can deny we're in deep economic straits. And no one can deny that the policies that we have had in place for the last 8 years, at a minimum, have not helped. I would argue they caused the problem. But even if you don't agree with that, they're doing nothing to help us. Look, John McCain and Governor Palin, to try to separate themselves from George Bush, had used the phrase maverick more than I've ever heard of. By the way, I got a woman on my staff who's a really bright lawyer who does all the policy stuff. She is actually a member of the Maverick clan. You know, it's a clan, it's a family in Texas. She's actually a member. They want to read a real Maverick, I want to introduce her to her. But here's the deal. They use this Maverick phrase like somehow we are fundamentally different than President Bush. Well, folks, as I said, not on a single central economic issue. But here's the deal. There's a friend of mine named Bobby Casey. He is the senator from the state of Pennsylvania, a good friend of ours, my hometown stranger. And I'm going to paraphrase Bobby. I call Bob, I grew up in the same neighborhood. Bob Casey, Senator Bob Casey. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, if you call yourself a man, put another way, you can't call yourself a man if all you've been for the last 8 years is a sidekick. By the way, this is a point of personal privilege. One of my best friends in the world is a deceased congressman, the greatest congressman ever served with. His daughter is here, and his name was Congressman Tom Lantos. And that was good to see.